All right, Beltire ready to take on Okanagan here. Starting us out today is going to be Orlick Agbe, Cristiano, Martin, and it looks like Caitlin Flanagan. We have a tight angle here this morning. Sorry, that was Hewer on that face-off. So Hewer, Orlick, Agbe, Martin, and Caitlin. Puck is in the corner. Comes out. Caitlin picks it up in neutral, loses an edge, sends it in, catches Orlick. Orlick trying to center. Hewer picks it up, goes behind the net of Okanagan. Okanagan now. Breaking out, passing up. Caitlin intercepted. Caitlin trying to move it, goes into the Beltire zone and gets covered up by Streeter, who is in net for Beltire. Beltire line change oncoming is Dobbs, Markovich, Kazarowski, McKenzie, Flanagan, and Morton. McKenzie over to Morton. Morton in the corner, rolls off her stick, picked up by Okanagan. Okanagan in the slot. Markovich coming in to disrupt the shot. And that puck is sent up to the blue line. Sent back in by Okanagan into the corner. Okanagan looking to center, picked up by Dobbs. Flanagan, McKenzie moving it up ice, finding Dobbs. Tipped back in by Okanagan. McKenzie going wide to Morton. Morton going up the board, trying to find Kazarowski, who gets it chipped into the Okanagan zone. Cruciano on ice now with Clemens. Cruciano, Day, and McKenzie still out for Beltire on D. McKenzie in the corner, coming up the boards. Clemens now right in front of us, getting it back to Day. Day up to Cruciano. Cruciano chipping it ahead to Cruciano, who is looking to chase it down behind the Okanagan net. Picked up now by Cruciano. And Bowman checked in on D for Beltire. So Bowman, Day out for Beltire on D. 13-11 on the clock. Centering pass blocked by Okanagan and chipped up the half wall. Coming across neutral. Chipped in. That's going to be cleared for no icing. Day chasing it down for Beltire. Behind the net into the corner. Okanagan centering pass. Disrupted by Day and Hewer. Bowman on D there. Okanagan walking the blue line. Clemens taking a slap at it. Okanagan's shot goes wide. Picked up at the half wall. Sent back in. Behind the Beltire net it goes. And picked up in the opposite corner. Back up to the point. Okanagan down to the half wall. Okanagan centering. Rolling off the stick of the winger wide and into the corner. Clemens tracked this down now, getting it up ice. Didn't quite make it out. Okanagan stick handling through. Okanagan. Chip shot blocked by Streeter and back out. This is going to be picked up behind the Beltire net by Bowman. Bowman trying to get it up ice, looking for Cruciano. And Hewer on the puck. Now Okanagan behind the Beltire net. Centering pass shot goes wide and picked up by Okanagan in the opposite corner. Beltire looking for a whistle here. Okanagan behind the Beltire net. Walking around, they're going to go centering pass into the slot. Disrupted by Clemens. Now picked up by Hewer. Hewer chipping it off the board, getting it cleared. Beltire going for a needed line change. And on comes the new line here for Beltire. Sitting in on net, covered up by Streeter to get the whistle. On ice is going to be Carlson, Bellucci. Caitlin Flanagan, Martin, and Bellucci to take this draw. Sorry, Dobbs on the draw. Shot in by Okanagan, blocked by Carlson. Into the corner goes Dobbs. Behind the Beltire net is Okanagan. Chased down by Martin. Picked up by Dobbs. Now Martin. Martin coming out with the puck. Martin surrounded by Okanagan. and gets it cleared up the boards. Finding Carlson. Carlson up with Palucci. Makes a break out into the Okanagan zone. Behind the Okanagan net. And Okanagan picks it up in the corner. Sent up into neutral. Defended here by Carlson. Back and forth. Defended by Martin. Picked up by Cruciano. Cruciano going around the net. Finding Martin. Martin going up the boards. Off a stick and gets centered by Palucci. Now picked up by Martin. Martin through neutral. Martin with room. Martin going up the boards. Rolls off her stick in the Okanagan zone. And that is picked up by Orlick. Orlick sends it down deep into the Okanagan zone. 10 minutes on the clock. Behind their net. Picked up by Agbe. Sorry, that is a terrible spot for that camera to be. I'm going to move it up just a little bit. Shot in on net by Cruciano. Gets blocked off by the Okanagan goalie. Doing my best to get you guys at least a good spot for the offensive zone here. Sent in by Beltire on the Okanagan zone. And we're going to come across center here. Offsides delayed by Okanagan. Picked up. Sent back to Flanagan. Flanagan up the wall looking for Kewer. Okanagan intercepting. Going into the slot. Kept in by Okanagan. Centering pass. Kicked aside by Streeter. Agbe now going to try and send that out. Picked up by Okanagan. Into the corner. Flanagan on this. And coming up the wall here is Hewer. Hewer trying to get a pass over to Markovich. Okanagan intercepted. Okanagan back into the Beltire zone. Now picked up by Markovich. Hewer, that puck stays in the Beltire zone. On the wall here. Battling to get that out. Finally rolls out. And picked up by Okanagan. Okanagan gains the Beltire zone. Circling the net. Centering pass, disrupted. Chipped ahead by Palucci. Palucci's going to gain the Okanagan zone. Palucci, centering pass. Looking for Kazarowski. And on ice for Beltire's Day, Bowman. We've got Dobbs, Palucci, and Okanagan trying to chip that back in. Chased down by Day. Day goes to Bowman, rink wide. Sent up ice. That's going to be on net. No icing, and Okanagan's going to freeze that puck with 8 minutes and 2 seconds. This will be a draw here in the Okanagan zone. Kazarowski's on ice with Day and Bowman on D. And Okanagan's going to come up ice, through neutral. And he's not gaining his own, denied by Day. Kazarowski, I'm sorry, that is Carlson looking for a centering pass out there with Dobbs and Palucci. Okanagan now coming up ice, intercepted by Day. Day with some room. Day gaining the zone. Day turning in. Day shot is denied by the Okanagan goalie. Good effort by Day with 7:30 on the clock. Okanagan now coming up ice. This is going to be defended by Caitlin Flanagan. Dumped into the Beltire zone. This is going to be chased down by Day. Day going up the boards. Looking for Orlick. Orlick to Cruciano. And then neutral. Sorry, that divider is right in the way of neutral. This is going to be defended by Martin. Martin fending off the Okanagan offensive attack. And now defended by Flanagan. Cruciano get a stick on it, and that puck gets sent up to Orlick, who's going to dump in and go for a change. Cruciano coming out with Hewer. Beltire is missing a player here, and out comes Clemens. Okanagan now gaining the Beltire zone. Play disrupted by Mackenzie Flanagan, picked up by Clemens. Clemens going up ice, going to try and get it deep. Gains the Okanagan zone. Behind the Okanagan net, and Cruciano's there to pin them up against the board. Hewer coming in to help. Hewer battling behind the Okanagan goal. Now Okanagan goes the opposite way, up the half wall. Cut in by Morton. Morton keeps it deep. Morton in the corner. Morton trying to get it back. Hewer now sending it back the opposite way, going back behind the Okanagan net. Chased by Clemens. Mackenzie Flanagan pinching in. It looks like Dobbs back on for Bell Tire. Okanagan clearing their zone, getting it to neutral. Sending it up ice, finding Dobbs. Dobbs and Flanagan. Dobbs turning the circle. Dobbs. Dobbs centering pass intercepted by Okanagan and disrupted by Markovich. Markovich back to McKenzie. McKenzie shot on net. Rebound opportunity here. Shot in by Markovich and cleared out by Okanagan now. Day coming back in on D with Mackenzie Flanagan. Day to go deep into the corner with Okanagan. Pinning up against the wall, waiting for help. Dobbs stepping in. Dobbs picking it free, coming up the half wall, chipping it out. Goes out through neutral. Picked up by Okanagan in their zone. Kazarowski on the hunt here. And Cruciano, now Day, picking it up in the neutral zone. Clearing it up, going into the Okanagan zone. Chased down by Carlson. Cruciano at the half wall. Sorry, that divider is right in the way here on the side of the screen. And Okanagan clearing it up, going to neutral. Okanagan behind the Bell Tire D, but that puck gets sent down for an icing to freeze play with 4 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. Bell Tire line change coming on. We are going to have Orlick, Agbe, Hewer, Martin, and Caitlin Flanagan. So this draw taking place in the Okanagan zone. Puck is down, sent back to Caitlin Flanagan. Shot, going to go wide, picked up by Martin, the half wall. Martin sending it back deep. Hits a weird spot on the board and pops out to center. Picked up by Okanagan, chased by Hewer. Behind their net. Orlick getting a stick on it in the corner. Hewer dropping it back behind the net. Agbe looking for it. Okanagan passing up the half wall. It's going to be defended by Caitlin Flanagan. Caitlin Flanagan going behind the Bell Tire net. Flanagan, half wall. Doesn't quite make it out of the zone. Picked up by Okanagan. Defended by Martin. Martin clearing it up. Okanagan intercepting and sending it way over top of the net. Chased down by Flanagan. Flanagan going behind the net. Picked up by Martin. Martin turning up ice. Passing it up. Looking for a shot to Orlick up ice. Sent back the opposite way by Okanagan and up ice into neutral. Defended by Dobbs there. Picked up by Mackenzie Flanagan. Flanagan sending it up the wall hard. Jumps past Okanagan's skate. Orlick has gotten hooked. No call. Shot in on net. Goes wide. And Morton checked in on D for Bell Tire. That puck makes it past her and goes out where it's picked up by Cruciano in her own zone. Cruciano looking to pass over to Mackenzie Flanagan. Defended by Okanagan. Okanagan stepping in. Shot on net. Gets blocked by Streeter. Picked up by Cruciano. She tips it past the Okanagan D and goes for a line change now. Okanagan in neutral. Okanagan coming up through neutral. Gains the zone. Chased down by Cruciano. And sent up the boards by Bell Tire, where it's picked up at the blue line by Okanagan. Sent up the boards, makes a pass. No icing. Kazarowski on the hunt here with Cruciano right behind her. Bell Tire D change coming in is Day and Bowman. Too many men. That was too many. Bowman behind the net with Okanagan, sending it up the boards. Collected at the half wall by Okanagan, turning in. Play disrupted, and now Okanagan at their point, sending it back into the slot. Defended by Bell Tire, sent back up ice. Okanagan at the point. Okanagan sending it wide. Point shot, slot shot is wide, misfire, and it looks like that net's going to be off, which will get a whistle, and Bell Tire is going to go for a line change. Martin and Caitlin Flanagan coming on with Hewer, Carlson, and Belucci. So there's a draw happening in the Bell Tire zone. 1 minute, 44 seconds on the clock in this period. Puck is down. Martin battling. Martin sending it up the wall, finding Hewer. Hewer upended. Picked up by Martin. Martin keeping it at the half wall, sending it up the point. And that's picked up by Hewer. Hewer with a little bit of a step. Hewer gaining the zone. Carlson on the hunt here. Bell Tire taking Okanagan behind their own net. Puck comes free into the corner. Picked up by Okanagan. Centering pass. Out to neutral. Now picked up by Caitlin Flanagan. Caitlin gains the zone. Okanagan intercepts. Sends it up the boards. Picked up by Carlson. Okanagan now sending it wide. This is going to be chased down by Martin. Caitlin Flanagan sending up the boards. That's going to go for an icing and waved off. Belucci now on the hunt. Okanagan sending it up ice. Picked up by Martin. Martin turning up ice off the boards. Hits Agbay. Agbay turning in. Agbay taken out right at the net. Shot gets blocked by the Okanagan goalie with 40 seconds on the clock. Martin on D here with Flanagan. Flanagan jumping back and keeps it going wide for Bell Tire. Up the ice, off the glass and out. Agbay in a foot race. Agbay gaining. Agbay behind the net. Looking for a centering pass to Orlick. Okanagan intercepted. Coming back up through neutral. Okanagan gaining the zone. Okanagan goes wide of the net. Fended off by, I believe that was Tuciano. 1 second remaining there, and that'll be the end of this first period. Action-packed first period of hockey. We will go into the second. No ice cut. So we'll have an ice cut in between the second and third period.
Oh man, one of these days.
Yeah, right. All right, we go back underway here in the second. Starting out here is going to be Caitlin Flanagan Martin on ice with Hewer, Agbay, and Orlick. Connie back in net. There's the shot that you're going to get of the face-off. Again, that divider in the way. 0-0, second period. Bell Tire, Okanagan hockey. Puck is down. Drop back to Flanagan. Flanagan looking up ice. Going deep. Bell Tire right back in the Okanagan zone. That puck played back by Orlick. I'm sorry, the goalie picked up by Orlick. Okanagan regains possession. Goes up through neutral. Martin gonna send it back into neutral. Picked up by Hewer. Hewer going up ice. Hewer gets a stick on him. Gains the zone. Hewer Sending it deep behind the Okanagan net. And sent up the half wall by Okanagan. Kept in. Kazarowski here on the hunt. Kazarowski going behind the Okanagan net. Comes out front into the slot. Not picked up. Martin keeps it deep. Turning back. And that puck sent back up is going to clear the zone. Picked up by Martin in her own zone. Martin looking up ice. Martin off the wall. Finding Dobbs. Dobbs, quick move. Gains the zone. And off the wall goes Okanagan. Okanagan going up through neutral. Defended by Dobbs. Dobbs running hard into the boards here. Picked up by Flanagan in the D zone. Flanagan up ice. And that's going to slide up in a foot race. Dobbs. Dobbs going in hard into the corner with Okanagan. Up ice. Picked up by Okanagan in neutral. And taken down by Morton. Sent back up ice. Getting in is shot on net. Goes wide. Gets picked up by McKenzie. McKenzie keeping it deep behind the net. Cruciano. Cruciano centering pass. Nobody home. Clemens out with Cruciano. Cruciano. Flanagan. Morton. Clemens going deep into the Bell Tires under the corner. Sending it around. Looking for Cruciano. Cruciano picking it up off the wall. Tipping it ahead. Finding Markovich. Markovich now. One-on-one. Markovich going to Clemens. Clemens coming back across. Shot in goes wide. Picked up by Clemens. Into the corner is Okanagan. Sending it behind their own net. Up the wall. Going up through neutral. Mishandled. Picked up by Cruciano. And now Okanagan gains possession. Dropping it back into their own zone. Sending it back up and into neutral. Picked up by Palucci. Palucci trying to get it deep. Beltire battling on the wall. Goes down into the zone. Chased by Carlson. Sent reach wide by Okanagan. Collected by Palucci. Palucci getting it deep. Fewer checked in now with Carlson. Palucci. McKenzie on D. Sent wide by Okanagan through neutral. Defended by McKenzie. Picked up by Carlson. Carlson sending up ice. Chipped down by Palucci. Goalie's coming out to play it. And that's going to be picked up by Day. Now Hewer. Hewer shoving it up to Day. Day picking it up. Going down deep behind Palucci behind the net. Centering pass. Sent in by Carlson. Carlson behind the net. Battle happening behind the Okanagan net. Sent up the wall. Picked up by Day. Day walking it out to center. Day going across to Bowman. Bowman trying to get it back deep. Okanagan chipping it out. That's going to go down for an icing. And waved off. That's a good puck. Day sending it up the boards. Picked up by Okanagan in neutral here. And Okanagan gains his own. Entry into Bell Tire zone, going behind Bell Tire's net. Okanagan hits the brakes in the corner, comes back around, trying to play it across. Defended off by Bell Tire. Sent rink wide, out of the zone. You can't see it, but it is in neutral. Going up the board, picked up by Day. And now Okanagan sent rink wide by Bell Tire, back into neutral. Collected in by Day. Day sending it up ice, back into neutral. Right on the boards, Agbe fighting to keep that puck in neutral. Picked up now by Bell Tire, looking to go around, is Dobbs. Dobbs regains possession in neutral. Dobbs going up ice, and we're going to have offsides on Bell Tire. So we're going to have a draw just outside the Okanagan zone. Markovich out there with Kazarowski, Cruciano, Caitlin Flanagan, and Martin. That puck is down deep in the Bell Tire zone, chased down by Martin and Flanagan. Flanagan in the corner. Okanagan sending it back out front. Shot goes wide of the net. This is chased down by Martin in the corner. Sent up the half wall. And now chased back down into the corner. Martin. And that is going to be frozen by Streeter with 9 minutes, 59 seconds on the clock. On ice, we're going to have Morton, McKenzie, Hewer, Clemens, and Cruciano. Puck is down. Sent back by Hewer. Around to McKenzie. McKenzie going up ice looking for Clemens. Clemens got a little bit of a break here. Clemens one-on-one. Chipping it around. Gets dragged down. No penalty. And picked up by Okanagan. Okanagan going up ice. Gaining neutral. Sending it across. Entrance into the Bell Tire zone. Chased down by Flanagan. McKenzie in the corner. Centering pass by Okanagan. Slides through the crease. Picked up by Clemens. Clemens going link wide. Looking for Cruciano. Sent back in. Picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan going up ice looking for Clemens. Intercepted by Okanagan. Okanagan in the slot. Goes around. Turns the corner. Centering pass. Blocked by Streeter. And cleared by Flanagan. Popping out. Now Hewer and Clemens. 2-on-1. Hewer going across. Shot. Gloved by Okanagan to freeze play with 8 minutes and 59 seconds on the clock. On ice, Bowman, Day, Palucci, Carlson, Dobbs. Dobbs on the draw. Puck is loose. Pulled back by Palucci to Bowman. Bowman sending it deep. Carlson back in, trying to get it deep behind the Okanagan net. Picked in by Dobbs. Carlson getting it, centering, and nobody home. The Okanagan intercepts, goes back the other way. Chased by Carlson. Gaining the Bell Tire zone. 8:35 on the clock behind the Bell Tire net. Dobbs coming in hard to help the defense. Okanagan coming out with the puck, still behind the Bell Tire net. Battle is Day. Day trying to get it to the corner. Picked up by Okanagan and sent back the other way. Now Dobbs. Dobbs going up the glass. Getting a break here is Palucci. Palucci 2-on-1 with Carlson. Palucci across to Carlson. Misses the mark. Carlson picking it up in the corner. And Okanagan's going to have it. Now Carlson coming in. I'm sorry, Palucci coming in hard. Now Palucci. Palucci sending it up the wall. Looking for Cruciano. Cruciano battling at the Bell Tire door. Cruciano centering pass. Nobody home. Goes to the corner. Cruciano on the wall with Palucci. Picked up by Okanagan. Martin at the line. Martin sent in and covered up by the Okanagan goalie. 7 minutes, 39 seconds remaining in the second period. On ice is Martin, Caitlin Flanagan, Orlick, Cruciano, and Agbo. Orlick down in the corner with Cruciano up the wall. Picked up by Martin. Martin sending it in. Wide of the net. Picked up by Caitlin. Caitlin sends it back deep. Agbe here to help. Agbe breaking towards the net. Agbe behind the net. Agbe is going to try and push it around and keeps it at the half wall. Orlick stepping in. Okanagan going behind their own net. Okanagan chipping it up the boards. Picked up by Caitlin. Caitlin turning back up forward. Then up Orlick. Battle happening right in front of us. And Okanagan makes their way in. Now it's going to be defended by Martin. Martin behind her own net. Going up glass. Off the boards. Cleared out of the zone. Picked up by Cruciano. Picked up by Martin. Martin going across to Flanagan. Caitlin Flanagan, rink wide, looking for the centering pass. Drop pass. Orlick. Shot. Is blockered aside by Okanagan's goalie. Picked up by Orlick. Orlick now turning back in. Sent out into neutral. Chased down by Martin. Martin gets a stick on it. Keeps it in the zone or in the neutral zone momentarily. Sent back in where McKenzie's there to pick it up. Sending it up the boards. Collected in by Hewer right behind the divider that you can't see. And sent back in by Okanagan. Down in the corner. Hewer chasing, getting it up the glass, hits the netting, and freezes play with 5 minutes, 51 seconds on the clock. The bell tire line change here. We're going to have Carlson out with Cruciano and some other bell tire players that I'll tell you about shortly. Puck going up ice. Palucci into neutral zone. Collected by Cruciano. Sent ahead. Palucci now gaining the Okanagan zone. Turning back, looking for a drop pass. Intercepted by Okanagan. Chased by Cruciano. Mackenzie Flanagan. Morton on D. Morton behind her net. Sending it around. Finding Carlson. Carlson chipping it ahead. Blocked by the ref. And sent ahead by, I believe, Palucci. Now Carlson with a little bit of room. Carlson's shot on net is going to be covered up by the Okanagan goalie and freezes play. On ice, we're going to have Day, Flanagan, having a little banter with the ref. He's doing his best to stay out of our way. So we've got Day on ice with McKenzie, Clemens, Dobbs, Okanagan going rink wide. Okanagan taking a shot in, blocked by Streeter. Okanagan rebound opportunity, blocked again by Streeter. Okanagan in the slot. That one's going to find the back of the net to put Okanagan up by 1 with 4 minutes and 53 seconds on the clock.
Let's go, BT!
All right, as we're back underway here, we've got Hewer out with Agbe, Orlick, Martin, and Flanagan. That puck's going to make its way into the zone of Okanagan. Hewer coming in hard. Okanagan going behind their own net. Okanagan on the wall, going rink wide, intercepted by Agbe. Agbe waiting patiently for her teammates to get out, sending it back deep. Okanagan behind their own net, chased down by Hewer. Up the glass, Okanagan gaining possession, sending it into the zone. It's going to be chased down by Martin. Okanagan on the hunt. Martin sending it around, finding Agbe. Agbe going back, finding Flanagan. Flanagan sending it up the wall. Intercepted by Okanagan. Orlick battling, trying to get that puck out. Martin in this mix, and that puck finally comes free. Rolls down into the Okanagan zone. Icing wave. Agbe on the hunt. Okanagan on the half wall, sending it up ice, finding a player, defended by Flanagan, shot, covered up by Streeter, goes over the net. Behind the bell tire net is a battle, and out front, sent wide, Martin stepping in, and that puck goes wide, picked up by Okanagan. Okanagan circling, shot goes wide, sent back in, blocked back out. Okanagan up at the point. Okanagan sending it deep, down into the corner, picked up by Martin. Martin sending it around the boards, finding Kazarowski on the half wall. Kazarowski in a battle with Okanagan, now cleared out by Flanagan, sent around, picked up by Martin. Martin off the boards, finding Markovich. Okanagan up to the point. Okanagan, D to D, Markovich to chase. Sent deep. Martin picking it up behind her own net, sending it around, finding Cruciano. Okanagan sending it back in. Flanagan, hard into the corner. Okanagan behind the bell tire net, chased down. Martin stepping in behind the net. Wraparound attempt, blocked by Streeter. Cleared out, lots of traffic in front of that net. Okanagan now. Chased by Martin. Picked up by Cruciano. Sent up ice. Too many. That has too many men. And icing is waved. Cleared up by the Okanagan goalie on a change. Bell Tire. Okanagan going straight in. Blocked off by Streeter. And sent up ice. Picked up here by Orlick. Orlick gaining the zone. Orlick centering pass. Picked up by Dobbs. Dobbs centering pass. Goes wide. Picked up by Orlick. Dropping pass. Okanagan now coming up through neutral. Okanagan gaining the zone. Defended by Mackenzie Flanagan. Shot goes wide. And Dobbs here to help try and clear this puck from the Bell Tire zone. Okanagan in the slot. Shot is gloved by Streeter, and some after play antics happening in that crease. 1 minute, 24 seconds remaining in second period. On ice is going to be Carlson, Cruciano, Martin, Caitlin Flanagan. Puck is down, picked up, dropped back. Flanagan on the puck, sends it up the boards. Collected by Okanagan at the point. Sent in, tipped out front. And comes finally clear of the net, picked up by Cruciano. Cruciano gets it up into neutral. Okanagan regains possession in neutral. Martin with a stick on it, gets it back up into neutral. Sent up the board by Cruciano. Lucci in the mix here. Carlson chasing. That puck's going to get sent deep. Going to be picked up behind Bell Tire's net by Martin. Going up, and this is the stretch pass to Cruciano. Cruciano sending it back behind the Bell Tire net. Picked up by Okanagan on the half wall. Sent in. Blocked by Streeter. 34 seconds remaining in the period. Clears the zone. Goes through neutral and goes into the Okanagan zone. Okanagan picks it up. Picked by Palucci. Okanagan now turning up the boards. Defended by Martin. Martin down into the corner. Stopping the rush. And sent up the board by Okanagan. The shot goes wide. 11 seconds remaining in the period. That puck comes on to Agbe. Agbe trying to get around. Agbe, 4 seconds in a foot race. Agbe clearing in. Agbe, as the period comes to a close. We will be in the third period. When we come back, there will be an ice cut. We're going to break here for 10 minutes. All right, we're back underway here. Bell Tire, Okanagan. And we're off. Okanagan with the puck in neutral. It's going to be defended by Martin. Puck picked up by Agbe. Agbe making a quick move. Tripped up on the play, and Bell Tire's going to go to the power play with the trip on Agbe. 14:49, 11 seconds into the period. And Bell Tire's going to bring out their power play line. Agbe, Hewer, Lucci, I believe, with Caitlin Flanagan and Martin. Bell Tire looking to even the game up here as we start this third period on a power play. Puck is down, back to Martin. Martin going across to Flanagan. Flanagan dumping it in. Finding Lucci behind the net. Hewer up to Flanagan. Flanagan back to Hewer. Trying to set their play up. Down deep. Lucci across. Looking for Martin on the back door. Okanagan picking it up. Going through neutral. Getting behind here. The Bell Tire net. And Flanagan catching back up. Picking it up is Lucci. Lucci going up to Martin. Martin going up to Lucci, who goes off the skate. Now Martin behind her own net. Martin with room. Martin going up ice. Finding Hewer on the wall. Picked up by Agbe. Agbe dropping it back to Flanagan. Flanagan to Lucci. Lucci going up to Martin. Okanagan in their own zone. Minute 4 remaining in the power play. Orlick gaining the zone. Orlick in the corner. Dropping it back. Picked up by Dobbs. Trying to clear it up is Okanagan. Held on the boards. I believe by Markovich. Picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan dumping it deep into the Okanagan zone. Okanagan going up the boards. Flanagan picking it up. McKenzie shot is going to go off the paddle of the Okanagan goalie into the netting. 34 seconds remaining here in this Bell Tire power play. On ice is McKenzie, Flanagan, Day, Orlick, Markovich, Dobbs. Dobbs on the draw. Puck is down. Orlick drops back to McKenzie. McKenzie going over to Day. Day sending it in on net. Goes wide. Comes back out in the slot. And that puck's going to come free into neutral. Sent back in by Markovich. Picked up by Okanagan behind their own net. Okanagan on the half wall. Okanagan sending it up. Collected in. Cruciano spinning backwards, gaining the zone. And Okanagan picking up the loose puck. Picked up by Day. Day sending it back in. Okanagan back to even here. So the power play is over. Picked up by Cruciano. Couldn't quite get her stick on it in the slot. Up the wall. That puck comes down to the Bell Tire zone. Picked up by McKenzie. McKenzie going up. Trying to get Cruciano. Off her stick. Picked up by Okanagan in the neutral zone. Off the wall. Sent in to the Bell Tire zone where McKenzie Flanagan's going to send it around looking for Day on the corner. Day moving it up the boards. Puck comes free. Cruciano on a foot race. Cruciano. It's blocked. And the goalie's going to kick the net off as Bell Tire had a break there with a 2-on-0. 12:06 remaining in the period. Bell Tire, Martin Hewer, Agbe, and Orlick out with Flanagan. Puck is down. Drop back over to Martin. Martin going up. Martin gaining the zone. Picked up by Okanagan. Okanagan now in neutral. And a collision here by Flanagan. Picked up by Agbe. Agbe sending it up the half wall. Orlick unable to collect that in. Played it wrong by Caitlin. Agbe now. Hewer collecting at the half wall. Hewer sending it up the ice. That's going to go down for an icing with 11:38 on the clock. So we're going to remain out here with Hewer, Orlik, Agbe, Martin, and Caitlin. 11:37 remaining in the period. Puck is down. Martin behind her net, battling, getting it around to Flanagan. Collected in by Okanagan. Okanagan dumping it back into the corner. Hewer battling with Flanagan. Trying to pick the puck free. Puck comes out. Collected in by Agbe. Agbe up. Finding Orlik. Dumping it deep. Beltire going for a line change. McKenzie coming out with Morton. Okanagan coming up through their zone. Gaining neutral. Over against the boards. Agbe battling. Sorry, not Agbe. Kazarowski. Sent back in by Okanagan. Picked up by McKenzie behind her net. Sending it back the other way. Looking for Morton. Morton sending it up the boards. Finding Kazarowski. Kazarowski sending it up ice. Collected in by Flanagan in neutral. Flanagan going up into the Okanagan zone. Okanagan coming back the other way, off the boards, into the Beltire zone, chased by Morton. Morton behind the Beltire net. Picked out by Dobbs. Dobbs rolling it around to Markovich. Couldn't quite collect it in. Dobbs chipping it up through neutral. Bouncing puck, chipped down by Okanagan. Okanagan in front of their own net. Circling into neutral. Off the boards, down into the Beltire zone. Behind the Beltire net is Day. Day carrying it around, half wall. Up to Palucci. Okanagan right out front, now picked up. Markovich now on a break with Palucci. I'm sorry, that's Cruciano. Cruciano shot in. Gets covered up by the Okanagan goalie with 9:48 on the clock. So on for Beltire now is Day and Bowman. Cruciano take the draw. Puck is down. Okanagan with the puck in their own zone, sending it up. Chipped into the Beltire zone, chased by Day. Day sending it back up the boards. Okanagan getting a stick on it. Okanagan sending it across and chipping it up the boards. Gaining the zone. Okanagan now. Shot goes wide of the net. Picked up at the half wall. Puck is bouncing. And Okanagan in the slot, sending it in. Chipped in, now picked up by Palucci. Carlson looking for a breakout, sending it to Martin. Martin going up. Martin sending it up ice. Oh, it's going to just miss the stick of Palucci for an icing. We're going to have a draw here in the Beltire zone, taken by Hewer. 9:01 on the clock. Beltire looking to even the score. Hewer on the draw. Puck is down at the dot. Caitlin Flanagan into the corner. Hewer picking it up off the half wall, trying to chip it ahead for Carlson. Carlson gets it out. Orlik now one-on-one. Orlik going wide. Orlik behind the Okanagan net. Orlik sending it back, looking for a bouncing puck. Martin picks it up in her own zone. Martin going off the boards, finding Agbe. Just misses it. Caitlin Flanagan sends it up looking for Agbe. Okanagan coming back the other way. Okanagan gaining the zone. This is going to be picked up by Martin. Martin sending it around, finding Agbe on the boards. Agbe going wide, looking for Hewer. Hewer off her stick, picked up by Okanagan, collected by Martin. Martin up to Orlik. Orlik trying to find the centering pass, and now picked up by Martin in her own zone. Martin behind the net. Martin going up ice, looking for Orlik. Finds her, picked up side, looking for Dobbs. Okanagan loses her skate right at the boards. Picked up by McKenzie. McKenzie in her own zone, sending it up the glass. That's going to go down into the Okanagan zone, where the goalie will play it up. Picked up by Okanagan through neutral. Defended by Cruciano. Goes wide. Dobbs on the hunt here, now behind the Bell Tire net. Centering pass blocked by Morton and Mackenzie Flanagan. Now Clemens sending it out, finding Cruciano. Cruciano now with a step. Cruciano looking for Clemens, who's getting center. And Cruciano is taken down into the boards. And Cruciano slow to get up, but makes her way back to her feet. Dumped in by Okanagan behind the Bell Tire net. Over to Mackenzie Flanagan. Flanagan up the half wall, finding Cruciano. Markovic. That's going to be an offsides call on Okanagan. Stepping in is going to be Day and Bowman on ice with Colucci, Kazarowski, and Markovic. Puck is down. Gains the zone. Markovic sends it back out. Dumped back in by Okanagan. Chased down by Day in the corner. Day up the wall. Finding Kazarowski. Kazarowski making a quick move. Going up to Markovic. Markovic chipping it ahead. Now dumped back to Bowman. Bowman shot in. Blocked out front. Sent back in by Okanagan. Icing wave. Collected by Day. Day in the corner. Okanagan behind the Bell Tire net. Sending it up the half wall. Sent in. Blocked by Streeter. Sent up the wall by Okanagan. Okanagan at the half wall. Walking in. Bowman to defend. And a battle in the corner of the Bell Tire zone. Dobbs in the center of it. Dobbs trying to chip it out. Collected by Okanagan. Okanagan in the slot. Shot. Blocked. Picked up and cleared. That's going to go down for an icing, and we will freeze play with 5 minutes, 40 seconds on the clock. Caitlin Flanagan back in for Bell Tire with Martin, Dobbs, Kazarowski, and Markovic. Bowman and Day back on for D for Bell Tire. Puck is down. Kazarowski battling hard at the half wall. Leaves an Okanagan player in a heap. Cleared up ahead. Kazarowski in a foot race. Kazarowski shot in. Blocked by the Okanagan goalie. And cleared out by Okanagan. Martin stepping up to intercept the pass. Okanagan gaining the zone. Okanagan turning in. Blocked by Streeter. Cleared out. Picked up by Cruciano. Cruciano gaining the zone. Now picked up by Carlson. Deep into the Okanagan zone. Hewer. Okanagan coming up, going rink wide. Turned down. Shot by Cruciano. Over the net. Rebound opportunity with Hewer. Puck is out. Okanagan now gains possession. Going up ice. This is going to be defended by Cruciano. Now Martin stepping in. Gets it ahead to Carlson. Carlson gaining the zone. Carlson trying to find it. Martin in the slot. Martin shot. Backhand. And there is a mess in front of that net. Lots of pushing and shoving. 4 minutes and 33 seconds on the clock. We're going to have Mackenzie out with Morton, Agbe, and a puck drop happening just outside the Okanagan zone. Drop back to Morton. Morton going up the wall. Puck gaining the Okanagan zone. Okanagan in the corner. Intercepted by Agbe. Agbe trying to circle around. Shot in by Flanagan is going to be gloved by Okanagan. Four minutes, 19 seconds on the clock. Face-off happening in the Okanagan zone, going to be taken by Dobbs. Martin and Flanagan back out on D for Bell Tire. Orlick to take the draw now. Agbay out with Dobbs. And that puck drops back to Flanagan. Flanagan shot in, goes wide of the net. Going to be picked up at the half wall, sent back in by Agbay. Now up the boards. Martin to defend here. Martin collects it by Orlick. Orlick over to Caitlin. Caitlin going up ice, intercepted at the blue line by Okanagan. Okanagan drop pass. Cleared out by Dobbs. Now Martin. Martin chasing. Martin hard into the boards. Picked up by Flanagan on net, and that's going to get covered up by Streeter to freeze play with 3 minutes and 44 seconds on the clock. So draw in the Bell Tire zone is going to be taken by Cruciano. Cleared up. Clemens chipping it ahead, looking for Cruciano. Sent back in by Okanagan. Picked up by Mackenzie Flanagan. Flanagan wide. Looking for Cruciano. Cruciano now with a break. Sending it across. And Cruciano is dumped in front of the net. How is there not a penalty on that? Sent back in by Bell Tire. Cleared out to neutral. Day collecting it in the Bell Tire zone. Going wide. Finding Cruciano. Cruciano with a quick spin move. Hitting up to Cruciano. Getting into the Okanagan zone. And I believe we're going to have an offsides call here on Bell Tire. With that puck going to be dropped just outside the Okanagan zone. On ice is Day, McKenzie, Orlick, Hewer, Agbay. Just behind that divider, my apologies, picked up by McKenzie. McKenzie's going to send it in on net. Cleared aside by Okanagan, 2:58 on the clock, down in the corner. Bell Tire looking for a goal here to even the game. Picked out by Okanagan. Okanagan coming up the boards. Okanagan centering in neutral. Stick on it by Day. Picked up by Orlick. Orlick and Agbay. Agbay. Agbay shot goes wide of the net. And the net is all the way off. That has got to be a penalty. Okanagan's doing a great job knocking that net off the ice, off the moorings. All right, so on ice, we are going to have Caitlin Flanagan, Mackenzie Flanagan, Hewer to take the draw. Puck is down. Agbay getting it out to Caitlin. Caitlin shot. Going to be turned aside. Orlick dropping it back into the corner. Up the glass. Picked up by, jumped over the stick of Flanagan. Now one-on-one is Flanagan. And that shot is going to go off of Streeter into the netting to freeze play. 2 minutes, 14 seconds. Bell Tire line change. Dobbs out with Kazarowski, Carlson, Caitlin, Martin. Draw in the Bell Tire zone. Dobbs to take it. Puck is down. Picked up by Martin. Martin going across to Flanagan. Flanagan looking for a stretch pass. Catching Carlson. Puck comes out of the zone, and it's going to be just offside on Bell Tire. 2 minutes and 5 seconds remaining in this game. We're going to have a face-off here by Dobbs. Puck is down. Kazarowski dropping it back to Flanagan. Flanagan chipping it in. Chased down by Bell Tire into the corners. Kazarowski behind the net goes Okanagan. Picked up. Shot in. And we're going to have Kazarowski sending it around. Martin in the corner. Martin keeping it deep. 6 skater for Bell Tire. Goalie pulled. Streeter's out. Picked up by Okanagan. Chased down by Martin. Picked up by Agbay. Agbay, 6 skater is in. Agbay getting ridden around the corner and taken down. Cleared up, picked up by Palucci. Palucci sending it in. Blocked by Okanagan. Minute 26 seconds. Okanagan behind their net. Picked up by Flanagan. Now we've got Palucci with the puck. Palucci circling neutral, chipping it back in. Palucci in the corner, dumping it around. Picked up by Beltire in front of the net. Backhand by Agbe goes over the net. Picked up by Orlick in the corner. Orlick dropping it back, looking for Martin. Martin walking across. Martin going across to Flanagan. Flanagan shot in, blocked out front, sent back out to the half wall. And cleared by Okanagan. That's going to be an icing. That is absolutely an icing with 50 seconds remaining on the clock.
Go BT!
All right, 6 skaters for Beltire. We've got Palucci, Flanagan, Orlick, Cruciano. Puck is down into the corner. Up top, Flanagan, shot, blocked into the corner. Picked up by Cruciano, Orlick. Orlick walking back the other way. Orlick going up the wall, finding Flanagan. Flanagan, shot, goes in, wide of the net. Picked up by Orlick behind the net, 30 seconds. Going up the wall, looking to clear it up is Agbe. Agbe, unable to get it to Flanagan. Agbe now, Agbe turning in. Agbe trying to get a backhand over to Palucci. Picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan going in. Flanagan shot. Blocked by Okanagan. 15 seconds. Cleared up the ice. Icing is going to be called. Yeah, we're going to get an icing with 7.7 seconds remaining in the game. So we're going to have time for one more face-off here in the Okanagan zone. Orlick, Hewer, Palucci, Cruciano, Flanagan on ice for Beltire. Draws down, right to the net. Goes Beltire across the crease, open net. That puck is just sitting in front. And that is going to be the end of the game. Beltire unable to get that equalizing point in there.